So I know how bad my writing is, but actually I learned from watching a guy called Jordan Belford, who's the Wolf of Wall Street dude. When he does his, and I actually quite like him, you can't read a thing that he says, but when he talks you through it, it kind of makes sense. And I just go the same kind of thing, and it is what it is. So pretty privilege. This is a term which has popped up more and more recently. I saw one of my contacts, Thor Holt, post about this not long ago. And it was almost down to the point of on CVs or on LinkedIn, should people be allowed to put their photograph up? Because inherently, better looking people, and I must admit, it does happen more with girls, but it's true with boys and girls, get more, well, they get approached more, and basically, they get perceived as being more talented and lots of different things. But I'm going to explain why that happens, and it's happened for all of time. And people are now saying, to make things more fair, should we almost, in the same way that a CV should be anonymized when it goes through for job applications, just so there's no bias on ethnicity or that kind of thing. And should people kind of withhold photographs so that people can't judge them positively or negatively based on how they look? And for me, I think that's a bit too woke. That's a bit too far. It is what it is. As someone that's not particularly attractive, I'm not probably 6 out of 10, if that. But the point is, I know what it's like to work through that. Likewise, if you're really good looking, fuck it, use it. It doesn't matter. That's just something that I'm quite good at, problem solving and academic kind of stuff. And that's a talent that I have. I'm going to use that as much as I can get. Likewise, if you're good in other ways, use it. I kind of don't care about that. But one of the things I'm going to talk about, and this relates to personal brand and something called the ABCD model. So most people now at least have an awareness of what is a personal brand. Basically, it's everything that people kind of see, think about you, what they see, what they think your talents are, and almost what people think about you and what people would say about you behind your back. Personal branding is really important, and actually we do cover it in the roadmap, but it's everything about how basically you will get offered more jobs, people will think you're more talented, you'll get promoted quicker, you'll sell more. And all of that is about actually how you communicate your vision, your values, your tone of voice, your body language, what you like, etc. to the world. And one of the big things that I think is really kind of worth talking about is something called the ABCD model, which kind of hopefully explains it quite well. We cover this in module 3 on the course. And what this is kind of go into is ways, and this is like proven knowledge and science kind of behind it. I want to explain it and then also explain how it relates to kind of the whole pretty privilege thing. So the first one is appearance. That basically in your chosen career, could be fashion, could be engineering, could be law, could be surfing, it could be whatever you want. There's a general appearance about what people expect for that industry. That if you want to break into, to sell into, say, finance, the finance sector, to go to Canary Wharf, the big banks, that kind of thing. If you want to sell your SaaS service into that product or, into that market, you almost have to match and mirror their appearance to almost be what they expect. Does that make sense? So for instance, your appearance, and people do rightly or wrongly judge you on it. What you wear, how smart you are, is it appropriate for the environment you're in? And people do judge you on that. I think people always know the kind of quote of, dress for the job you want, not the job you have. And again, on that prime example, if you go into work every day and you're a little bit scruffy, people aren't going to really see you as a partner or the boss or whichever, or they're less likely kind of to. And one of the kind of top tips on that, if you're going into a client meeting and you're not sure how they dress and what they kind of look like, it's almost impossible to overdress, because if you go into a meeting and everyone is in a full suit and you are as well, you're kind of good. As well, if they're a little bit more relaxed, just take your jacket off. But the point is, if you turned up in t-shirt and shorts, they're not going to take you seriously, because your appearance doesn't match what they expect, in terms of their industry. So it is something to kind of be aware of. B is behavior. So almost again, if you want to break into finance, or you're in a big company or a small company and you want to be promoted and you want to be considered to be the next MD, people will judge you on how you act, your ability to relate to customers, your body language. Do you turn up on time? Do you leave early? Actually, how you act, and as part of your personal brand, your behavior actually will make a really big difference in how people perceive you. And then when it comes down to the freelancer example or whichever, again, people judge you on all of these things that rightly or wrongly they kind of do. So it's almost just having a conscious awareness that actually in certain sectors, so tech, I imagine, is a lot more relaxed than finance or law. So if you go to speak to a tech conference or meet with people, if you're good, you'll be able to actually change your behaviors and how you act and how you sound to fit in, to match and mirror the people that you're with. Because actually, the more people feel that you are like them and that they can relate to you and they can trust you and that you're similar, the more likely to buy your stuff, the more likely to offer you jobs, etc. And the ability to kind of balance that for the environment you're in is actually kind of quite important. So C is for communication. People rarely judge very highly your ability to speak and get ideas across, and communication is a big part of listening as well. It's not just a broadcast kind of thing. But again, people know from how you speak, and I don't mean just being posh, but actually how articulate you are and how excited you are and your tone of voice and the way that you communicate with body language and that kind of thing. It's part of the reason why I do a live stream video, is because you can both hear my voice, so it's not just a podcast. You can see what I'm like, that I walk around, I gesture a lot with my hands, and I do lots of kind of different things, which is just kind of me. But it's all kind of part of communication. But it's all almost thought out, that again, part of the reason why I spend so much money and time on lighting and cameras and stream and tickers and that kind of thing, because it all relative, builds on the brand in terms of the appearance, what the stream looks like, what the perception of my service is like based on how good the audio quality is. It's adding up all these different things. But then likewise, the ability to communicate with everything that I have is so much better than just the written word. And it's those kind of things when I'm trying to encourage people to work on their personal development if they're trying to build a personal brand in industry. Video is really good because actually you get a vibe for someone, and yes, some people aren't going to like it, but some people kind of will. But this is all part of the same behavior. And the last but not least is digital. And when I originally kind of built this up, social media and that was a newer thing, is where now it's just pretty obvious, but it's still something worth kind of looking at. That when you're going for a job or whichever, or even right now, because this is digital, this is live, your digital footprint does matter. If you have, like when I was at uni, I was on the sports teams, you'd get into trouble and that kind of thing, you go out drinking. I always have my personal accounts personal, because actually I don't want that to reflect on my personal brand. If someone Googles Steve Pugh, it doesn't come up with photos from Salutor in 2008, because actually, although that was a great time in my life and it's part of me, your digital footprint and presence is really important. And again, your digital is a great way for your personal brand, because it's a way that you can hit 20,000 people every Friday morning. And even if they don't watch the stream, which 99.9% of people don't, the hope is even if they click on it for 2 seconds, they get a feel for, okay, it looks all right, it looks professional, obviously a lot of time and effort's gone into it. That's still helping to build my brand via the digital kind of channel, even if people don't watch and consume the whole thing. And it's almost this kind of thing of, the other C I'd throw in is consistency. Really, really important that if you can be regular in what you're doing. So actually every Friday morning, regardless, I had a sore throat last week, I'm going to do the stream, because actually it's good commitment for me to come up with the ideas, do it, but it's that repetition that hopefully people know that even if they hate me doing it, at least I'm committed enough that I will do what I say I will, and it's that kind of thing. But back to pretty privilege, basically, your appearance does matter in what people think about you. And if you don't believe me, look at any advert for anything, clothing, cars, whatever. Models, we know what models are generally good looking people. And the reason why, and this is true, you have good looking models who advertise clothes or cars or phones, is because it's proven that people perceive, the consumer perceives, that the positive traits of being good looking are passed on to the product, the car, whatever. Even if the model is only stood next to it or driving it, we have a higher opinion of said product. if it's next to and presented by pretty people, and that's just a fact. It is what it is. There are things that you can do if I'm a big fan of Queer Eye for the Straight Guy, the film, but actually you can work on your personal appearance. You can wash your hair. You can iron your clothes. There's a lot of things that you can do to, basically match the appearance and behavior of what people expect. We might not all look like, Kate Moss or whoever, but that's okay. But there are still things you can do, and rightly or wrongly, people do judge us on it, and it's that balance. In terms of pretty privilege, I don't think we should start blacking out people's photos. I don't think we should say that people can't do video, because where does it stop? You can't balance so smart people can't write clever articles because it might upset people that aren't quite at that level. I think it's a bit silly, but it is a real thing. People are talking about it. People are campaigning for it. I think it's woke, kind of gone too far, but I would love to know your thoughts. Pretty privilege, have you ever found it positive or negative? And again, it goes multiple ways. That one of the things that really winds me up is when you see, women and girls who post on social media, and the amount of comments you see in the feed from men that are either a little bit pervy or whatever. That doesn't happen the other way around, but it's not appropriate. It's not good for the workplace, but it happens and it shouldn't happen. And it's just, but as a man, I've never experienced it. So whilst I empathize, I'd love to know your kind of thoughts. And if you ever want to come on the podcast and talk about it, that kind of thing, maybe with Charlotte or whoever in the future, it's definitely worth kind of thinking about. But yes, that was just my 2 cents on the topic. If you see this on YouTube, please kind of like and subscribe. We tend to talk about business and entrepreneurship type stuff.